everyone! Well, it's Mr. Gurm and the Secret Hideout, the second part of Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. Polly and Friday have just been captured and thrown into the brig on the Sirloin, a terrible ship full of rotten meat commanded by the insane Captain Brazil. Captain Brazil stood on deck, looking down with contempt on the prisoners as they struggled in the sailors' brawny arms. Then he realised he wasn't tall enough to look down with contempt on the prisoners as they struggled in the sailors' brawny arms, so he fetched himself a stool, stood up, and then looked down with contempt on the prisoners as they struggled in the sailors' brawny arms. "Throw him in the brig!" he exclaimed. "No!" protested Friday. "Not the brig! Anything but the brig! Please, I beg you, not the brig! If you've an ounce of mercy in you, please, do not throw us in the brig! Also, what is a brig, by the way?" "Nah, it be the ship's prison, where the rats'll pick at your toenails to get to the tasty cheese underneath, and the weevils'll make their homes in your nostrils," said Captain Brazil. And even as he spoke, the hefty Brendan jaw snapper threw open a heavy iron door and tossed the two heroes inside as easily as if they were a couple of bags of flour. Clank went the door. Went the lock. Oh, the Camptown ladies sing this song. Doo-da, doo-da, went the ringtone on Captain Brazil's mobile phone, which his young nephew had put on and he didn't know how to change. And there they were, our two heroes, prisoners in the brig. Chapter 8. Ship's Biscuit. And now began an ordeal so awful that Friday and Polly would remember it for the rest of their lives, apart from Friday, who instantly forgot it as soon as it was over, because he thought that was just the best thing to do. For hour upon hour, the two friends sat in the cold, damp gloom of the brig, with only a thin crack of light coming from under the door by which to see. From time to time, a small metal hatch would open, and a sailor would throw in some food. It was always but a single crumb of bread, except for one time when the hatch opened, and in came 8 roast chickens, gravy, garden peas, buttered parsnips, a choice of side salad or spicy Cajun potato sandwiches, and a smiley meal plastic toy. "Oh, no," said the sailor from the other side of the hatch. "I've only gone and accidentally thrown the prisoners our supper instead of a crumb of bread." But apart from this stroke of good fortune, it was a miserable time. The two friends hardly talked, but sat in silence, Polly wondering what was to become of her beloved hometown of Lamanick Bibber, and Friday thinking sadly of new flavours for yoghurts that he might never eat. Slowly the night passed as the Sirloin chugged its way upriver, heading for the open sea and then China. The engine thrummed, and the big wheel on the side of the boat turned and splashed, turned and splashed, turned and splashed again. Captain Brazil's cabin must have been directly above the brig, for sometimes Polly could hear him stamping around, pacing on the wooden floorboards and moaning, "Oh, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, come back back to me, Elizabeth." And then it seemed she could hear him weeping, howling with tears, and soon after he would shout, "More rum! Starbuck! Bring me more rum!" Then all would be silent for a while, until the pacing and stamping began once more, and the moaning. "Oh, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, how I love thee, sweet Elizabeth." And so the long night passed, in wails and moans and splashes and groans and sighs. Did Polly fall asleep? She did not know, for in that near darkness what was real and what was not became blurred and mixed together like a dream, or like when you were on a plane with your mum and dad and you pour all the pepper and salt and little pots of milk and things into your orange juice, you know, in that little plastic cup they give you, and you even put in that little face wipe that smells of lemons, and then you stir it round and it looks like puke and your parents tell you off, but then you dare your sister to drink it, and then your mum says, "Oh, just stop it, I told you to stop that, act your age." And then the stewardess, or the air steward, comes round to collect everyone's stuff, and your mum hands her your disgusting cup that you've made a complete mess of and says, "I'm really sorry about my children, they're very immature," and gives you the darkest look ever. It was like that. Yes, in that near darkness, what was real and what was not became blurred and mixed together. So, I ask again, did Polly fall asleep? She thought she did, for surely it must have been a dream, the way she felt, as if every part of her body was as light as a cloud, as light as a puffy, fluffy little cloud. And then suddenly, standing before her, she seemed to see a boy whose shining, honest face she knew well. "Hello, child," said the young boy, though he was no older than she. "Ah, I like your suit and tie, but tell me, what are they feeding you in this place?" "Oh, it's mostly just some crumbs," exclaimed Polly glumly. "I see," said the lad. "And do they not feed you ship's biscuit?" No," said Polly. "We never gets no ship's biscuit." "Well," laughed the boy kindly, "perhaps you don't need any. Perhaps you already have all the biscuit you need." And then, as if waking for a dream, the moment was gone, if it had ever really happened. But as Polly sat, shivering and blinking in the gloom, she replayed the strange vision over and over in her mind. "Perhaps you have already got all the biscuit what you need," she murmured. Oh, what did that amazing spirit mean? For she felt sure she had just been visited by the spirit of the rainbow, who was a force for good and could do mysterious things like get into your dreams, grant your wishes, and give you clues. "But I ain't got no biscuits," she said. "Unless—" Polly patted the jacket of her suit, and there was a small lump in the top pocket. Could it be? She wondered. She reached into her pocket, and her hand closed on something rough and crunchy. It was Alan Taylor, her tiny 2.54 centimetres tall gingerbread friend. "Oh, so you're the ship's biscuit," marvelled Polly. Alan Taylor was fast asleep, and there was a sign around his neck which said, "Hibernating. Do not disturb until spring." He looked so peaceful and his electric muscles whirred gently in time with his delightful sugary snores. "Oh, I'm so sorry, A.T., but we needs you now, and your big gingerbread brain," whispered Polly, tickling him softly under the chin with a weevil. Snored Alan Taylor. "Oh, that tickles." And then, just like that, he was awake and standing in the palm of her hands, his electric muscles glowing feebly in the gloom. "Polly," he blinked, "is it spring yet?" "No," whispered Polly, "but I'm ever so glad to see you, 'cause me and Frides is in the biggest trouble of our lives." And then Friday awoke, and the three friends hugged each other in the darkness, and Polly asked Alan Taylor what he was even doing in Polly's pocket in the first place. "Simple," replied Alan Taylor. "Every year we gingerbread men like to find a nice warm pocket in which to curl up and hibernate. It is the way of my people, always has been, and it always will be." "Oh, well, I'm just glad you picked my pocket to sleep in, you glorious little nibbly," said Polly. "By the way, do you think you can get out of that little crack under the door?" "Well, let's think about this. For enormous, overweight, oversized giants like you two, and I mean that with love and respect, it would be impossible," said Alan Taylor proudly. "But my tiny biscuit size means that I can squeeze through even the smallest cracks." And he gave them a biscuity glance. "It is the way of my people." Without further ado, he slid under the door like a thing sliding under another thing, and he was gone. A few minutes later, they heard a scrabbling noise outside the door, and then the sound of a key turning in the lock. Can you open the door?" Alan Taylor whispered. "It's too heavy for me." "Okay." "Ha-ha, right, you want the help of us enormous, overweight, oversized, big, bulky giants, do you?" said Friday, who wasn't quite over what Alan Taylor had said to him. But Polly pushed the door open in the true spirit of forgiveness, and the exhausted Biscuit tumbled back in, clutching a big brass key, almost as large as himself. And here he is, Alan Taylor, with the brass key. "The key was hanging around the first mate's neck," he explained. "I managed to hop up onto his fat stomach and remove it without waking him. It is the way of my people." "Well, that is wonderful," said Polly. "But, Alan, A.T., do you think we could have a bit less of the personal comments about everyone's size?" "Yes," said Friday. "Anyway, what are we waiting for? The truth is a lemon meringue. Let's get out of here." I don't think that would be a good idea," said Alan Taylor. "We could make it up to the deck, but there's nowhere to run, and we can't jump overboard, because I noticed the sea was full of massive sharks and churning krakens, and also that guy out of Pirates of the Caribbean who's got horrible tentacles all over his face." Said Polly, who was examining some ropes, an old sacks, and a mop in one corner of the brig. "Elizabeth! Oh, my sweet Elizabeth!" moaned Captain Brazil from his cabin. Said Polly again. "Listen up, gang. Not with just one or two of your ears, but with all of your ears, every single last one of them. Listen up good, 'cause I thinks I've got a genius plan." And our next chapter is Chapter 9, The Captain and Elizabeth. Hope you enjoyed it, everyone. See you soon. Bye.